Hi, I'm Dustin Weatherby with Sculptdecor. I'm here doing a carving, a live video carving for Grandview Heights Stevenson Elementary. They had an all arts day scheduled. Technically it's been switched over to a digital version because of the whole coronavirus situation. So I'm doing my demonstration here from home today, and they wanted me to carve a bobcat that is similar to what their logo is up there, but I'm going to incorporate some realistic features into it, and then when I go to finish it, it's going to have a little bit more of a finish that's going to look like their logo. So it'll be a combination between a realistic bobcat and the logo that they have up there. For demonstration purposes, I like to use white pine or cedar or a nice softwood because I can move through it fast and people get to see the final product a lot sooner. My favorite wood to carve though is probably a sugar maple because of the smell. I like the smell of it, and I like a nice dense wood where your features are a little bit more predictable. When you have these softer woods, you have a little bit more spacing between the layers, like the fatty layers and growth layers, and your tool can sometimes dig into that more on the softer woods. But the harder woods are a little bit more predictable because they're kind of more tightly wound, if that makes sense. I got the trusty steel battery saw, and it's got a little quarter tip on it, which means you can really get into your cuts with that. I like this because it's battery powered. It's a little bit more quiet for on the go. And this is my most trusted saw. It's the Makita 501 2B. It's an electric plug-in saw. This thing is super fast, really aggressive. And I have my old one. This is the original that I had, where I put the Canon carving bar on it. And this is a dime tip. It's a little bit more detailed tip on this one. So I like to use electric saws for demos just because, I mean, the gas saws are nice when you don't have ability to use electric. Some of the other tools that I use are these die grinders here. This is a burr bit on the end. This is a medium burr bit. Chews through the wood pretty quick, especially softwoods. One of my most used tools is this burr disc. This thing will chew through the wood. It's very aggressive. You do not want that to touch any part of your body when it's moving. And then a different array of chisels. I have a whole hodgepodge of different chisels that I use. Dremel tools, things like that. So that being said, I'll get going here. Just basically kind of tracing my lines here, making sure they're in there real good so that I can see exactly where I'm going to be cutting. Alright, so it's time to get started. Got to get the safety equipment on first. Try to keep some of those particulates from the wood getting into my lungs. Better safe than sorry. Plus, with this whole coronavirus thing, everybody's wearing these, right? Face shield. Got to keep the stuff out of the eyes too. And my first tool I'm going to use here is the die grinder with the burr bit. I'm going to use it to try to trace in some of my lines, and then I'll go back and I'll cut around those later with the chainsaw and relief it. I've gotten some of the die grinder work and the outline done. So what I'd done is I dug in here several inches deep, and basically this is how I'm going to be able to get my outline, so that when I go to remove some of this extra material to leave the bobcat face protruding out, I'll have an easy line to see when my saw gets through there. So I'm about to cut right here. see that saw peeking through, that means I'm getting through underneath and it's taking me that line, so I'll be able to remove this material pretty easily. So I got a lot of the material removed away from the outside of the Bobcat's head, as you can see. So I just knocked these off. It's probably about 4 inches deep, 3.5, 4 inches deep, something like that. So then my next step is I'm going to start recessing back these parts, the most protruding out feature, and then work my way back in. That way I know that this is my high point, this is what I have to start with. So now what I'm doing is I've got some of the shape of the head created. Now I'm going to go in with my Dremel tool and I'm going to kind of outline where these eyes are. That way when I recess the material back, I'm still able to find where that is on the sculpture. So I'm using, this is just a little zip bit on a Dremel tool because it'll zip through the material pretty quickly. I've got a lot of the shape down. You can see I've got the eyes recessed. I'm going to bring this mouth back slightly, and my next step is I'm going to texture it. So you can see I kind of did it a little bit here. This is just kind of to show you what it's going to look like. So the whole face is going to be done with that type of texture. So here I've got an array of different Dremel bits, and I'm going to be using a tiny little pen Dremel right here to do some of this detail on the eyes. I want to get those smoothed out so that they can be somewhat reflective when they're finished. And I've got a lot of bits here that are like dental bits. They're very, very tiny bits for really intricate details. As you can see, that's just one example. I have ones that are even way smaller than that. So each one has their own application. So now I'm about to do my favorite part, and a lot of people's favorite part. I'm actually going to burn the wood. When I do this, it's going to bring a lot of the grain variance out in the wood. It'll really make it pop. I'm not going to burn every part of it. I want to try to separate this part, this background, from the cat. So I want it to have a lot of contrast. So I'm going to try to primarily just burn the wood grain that's on the cat itself. finished my Bobcat carving for Grandview Heights Stevenson Elementary's All Arts Day digital version. So this is a combination between a combination of a real live Bobcat and the logo of the school district. So I kind of gave it a little bit more elaboration on the fur and stuff like that, but then I also I shaded it to look like their logo. I always knew I wanted to be an artist since I was young. I didn't know what direction I wanted to take, and I always had an appreciation for like painting and things like that, but as soon as I went to college, I followed my inspiration to be an artist, and I went to a sculpture class, and I met an awesome professor at Eastern Michigan University named Brian Nelson. Shout out. But he's really inspired me. He basically showed me that everything is sculpture. I work with steel. I do a lot of steel fabrication. I have a big sculpture I'm working on currently. Obviously do wood. I like to do ice carvings, fiberglass work. Those are my primary materials, but I like to do a little bit of everything. Another question is, what are the top 3 things you must have to get started? Well, I would say patience for sure. Willingness to learn would be a big one, and I guess being able to assess situations, whether it be safety or what you can do to make the material do what you want it to do. What kind of suggestions would you have for people that want to be artists? I would say make as much art as you can. Practice always makes you better, and a lot of people will say things to me like, well, I can't even draw or something like that. Well, when people say that to me, I say, well, how much time do you spend practicing drawing? You know, so everything is a practice. Everything that you want to get better at, if you practice it, you're going to get better at it. And how did you decide to be a wood carver? I don't really know why. I think when I was young, I had seen some people like whittling wood, and I was really fascinated with that. And so I started doing it on my own. I used to make like little wood knives and stuff because I thought it was cool. And obviously it's progressed into this. So now I still have that appreciation for shaping wood, and I like it because it keeps its shape, you know, afterward. I do a lot of ice carvings and things like that as well, but that's a perishable, more perishable item. So, do you ever cut yourself with tools? I have. I've made my share of mistakes. A lot of them were preventable, but sometimes, you know, in the heat of the moment when you're trying to hurry, or you know, you get sucked into a project, you're not thinking about the outlying things that could happen. But I've learned. Thankfully, I haven't lost any digits yet. So, so yeah, you just gotta try to focus on being safe when you're doing this kind of stuff, because there's a lot of danger around. So other than that, I think that's about it for the questions. So if you have any questions about me or any of the stuff that I do, feel free to reach out. I'm on Instagram at Sculptdecor, SCULPTDECOR. I have a Facebook page, Sculptdecor1. If you reach out to any of the social media platforms, I'll be able to get back to you with any questions you might have. I also have a channel on YouTube, same thing, Sculptdecor, real easy to find, with a lot of other content on there as well. So I hope that this video inspires you to be creative and follow your passion to be an artist.